Shudyanatma Vratadibi Shinvatam Gunatam Viryani Udamani Hare Muhu Tasujaya Shudyanatma Vratadibi Shinvatam Gunatam Viryani Udamani Hare Muhu Ita Sujataya Bhaktya Sudyanatma Vatadivi. Other chat. Shinvatam Ginatam Viryani Udamani Hare Muhu Ita Sujataya Bhaktya Sudyanatma Vatadivi. Shinvatam Ginatam Viryani Udamani Hare Muhu Satya Bhaktya Ujanatma Vatadivi Shinvatam Ganatam Viryani Udamani Hare Muhu Yata Sujatya Bhaktya Sujanatma Vatadivi Shinvatam of those hearing Ganatam and chanting Viryani, the wonderful activity, Udamani, able to counteract sin, Hare, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Muhu, always, Yata, as, Sujataya, easily brought forth, Bhaktya, by a devotional service, should yet may be purified. No, not. Atma, the heart and soul. Vrata Devi, by performing ritualistic ceremonies. Translation. One who constantly hears and chants the holy name of the Lord and who hears and chants about his activities can very easily attain the platform of pure devotional service, which can cleanse the dirt from one's heart. One cannot achieve such purification merely by observing vows and performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Repeat after me. One who constantly hears and chants the holy name of the Lord and hears and chants about his activities can very easily attain the platform of pure devotional service, which can cleanse the dirt from one's heart. One cannot achieve such purification merely by observing vows and performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Prabhupada's purport. One may very easily practice chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord and thus become ecstatic in spiritual life. Padma Purana states, Nam aparada yuktanam namani eva arantyagam avishanti prayuktani tani varta karani cha. Even if one chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra offensively, one can avoid offenses by continuously chanting without deviation. One who becomes accustomed to this practice will always remain in a pure transcendental position, untouchable by sinful reactions. Shukadev Goswami especially requested King Parikshit to note this fact very carefully. There is no profit, however, in executing the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. By performing such activities, one may go to the higher planetary systems, but as stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:21, Kshine Punye Martyaloka Vishanti. When the period of one's enjoyment in the heavenly planets is terminated because of the limited extent of the results of one's pious activities, one must return to earth. Thus, there is no use in endeavoring to travel up and down in the universe. It is better to chant the holy name of the Lord so that one may become fully purified and eligible to return home back to Godhead. That is the aim of life, and that is the perfection of life. Om Gantimarandasya Kiranjana Salkaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Andeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Patakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Sa He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namamastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhishta Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, I don't know if this is the disappearance or appearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Do you know? I should know, but I disappeared. Appearance.
The appearance.
Okay. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is one of our great predecessor acharyas. And I know the first time I went to India in 1985, and one of the trips they took us on was across the Jalangi to his house where he lived, and and he looked across the river at the place that's now the ISKCON property. Of course, it wasn't back then. It was maybe 1860 or 70, or I don't know what year it was, but it was in the 1800s. So there was nothing there, but he looked across the river and he saw the devotees from all different countries chanting Hare Krishna. Yeah, and that was his desire. This is Lord Chaitanya's desire, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's desire, and that's what happened in 1972. I think that's when Prabhupada got, or 71. That's when the Prabhupada got the land there. That's the Mayapur property now, and I guess probably everybody here has been to Mayapur, and it's pretty amazing what's developed there, what Lord Chaitanya has developed there, what Prabhupada has developed there, and Prabhupada's disciples and grand disciples. It's just um, to say it's amazing is a pretty big understatement. It's just mind blowing. I know the first time I went there, it wasn't until '85. But it was about, it was about 13 years after it got it. And it was a little bit developed back then. The big, uh, long house with all the devotees stayed was there, and the temple was there, and the courtyard was there with the fountain, and the Prabhupada Samadhi was being built. So it was already fairly well developed. But outside the property, there was still nothing. It's just a dirt road, no shops, no rickshaws, not many people, just some little villages here and there. We went to Lord Chaitanya's birth site, the Yoga Pit, and there was just a little temple there. And now, of course, it's so. Anyways, Lord Chaitanya's movement is developing more and more and spreading all over the world just by the desire of Lord Chaitanya and his great uh, followers and intimate associates like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and all the great disciples and grand disciples. And so we owe everything to our predecessor acharyas, especially Srila Prabhupada, who brought Krishna consciousness all over the world. And but of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is key devotee in the development of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. It was his desire. And at this point, I'd like to emphasize, I know everyone here reads Prabhupada's books, and that's very good. The emphasis of all our reading, everyone has their own spiritual master now, and of course you have to read whatever they write, and devotees are reading all kinds of things from previous acharyas, but and that's okay, but that's good. It's nice. But the emphasis should always be on Prabhupada's books and your own spiritual master, of course. But the ISKCON is only everything Krishna consciousness spreading all over the world is only because of Prabhupada and Prabhupada's books. And so um, over the course of time, people forget. We're not forgetting in ISKCON, but the tendency is the nature of time is that people forget. It's been over for 1977 when Prabhupada left is already a long time, 47 years. It's a long time. It's not a long time. 47 years isn't much, but by human calculation and our short lives and small intelligence and poor memories and just the influence of time, there's a tendency to forget and to. So I try to remind people, devotees all the time, that don't lose your emphasis on Prabhupada and Prabhupada's books. You have to recognize there's so many things that we forget, and we don't want to. We can't forget Prabhupada. So along with Prabhupada, I mean, I could go on and on with that, but but I also try to emphasize to everyone that along with Prabhupada's books, I don't know, I mean, devotees in general, everyone reads Prabhupada's books, but do you, or we should, and I do, and many should listen to Prabhupada's audio. And there's also so much video of Prabhupada that's easily available to us. As I always say, suppose I had a time machine and I went back to when Krishna was in Vrindavan and I had my iPhone with me and I took videos of Krishna with the gopis or Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. And then I came back to this time and I and I said, "Oh, I have some videos. I was just in Vrindavan with the time machine. I have some videos of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. Do you want to see them?" And you'd probably say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Show me those videos. I'd really like to see those." So we have videos of Prabhupada, and we have all kinds of audio of Prabhupada available, easily available at a couple of touches or keystrokes on a computer. You can see everything and hear everything very easily, and listen to Prabhupada. Listen to you can. His books are the basis, but as long as his audio is so easily available, take advantage of it because you're just hearing the way Prabhupada talks, the strength in his voice, the power in his voice, the complete, utter conviction of Krishna consciousness, of Krishna in his voice, and how he emphasizes this word or that word, just his mode of speaking, his inflections, his hesitations, his humor. You can hear him speaking something you might not know it was in a humorous way, just reading one of Prabhupada's lectures. But if you hear his voice, you can hear he was actually being funny at that point, which was not unusual. His main lectures and conversations, the tone of his voice is always very serious and grave and often heavy or without. He didn't have to. Uh, anyway, but if you hear his audio, you can hear. You can really get a really nice. Understanding a little more of Prabhupada's personality, his relationship with his disciples, with devotees. You can hear like, how he dealt with different people in different circumstances, depending on who his audience was. I heard like a reporter he would speak with one way, or one reporter he would speak with in a different way if he saw that this particular reporter isn't challenging me. This reporter actually has uh, some serious questions, actually interest in what in Krishna consciousness, not just an official job coming to do an interview, but he or she actually has some. So we talk with them in a completely different way. You can hear it. I heard, or in a room conversation with some GBC members or disciple or sannyasis, he would talk in a very much more confidential, intimate way. And I heard recently he gave a lecture, and it was, I think, in 1969. He went to give that lecture at Ohio State University. And I don't know if you know this, but he on the way to Ohio State University, he stayed. Mother Taruni and Yadanandana were living near near there, somewhere near there, and they were new devotees. But his Sir Prabhupada's secretary called them up. They were known to the devotees; they knew him, but they were uh, new devotees, and they asked if Prabhupada could stay at their house on before going to Ohio University. So, and he did. He stayed with them for, I think, one night. Uh, Taruni and Mother Taruni and Yadanandana had direct association with the Prabhupada. And of course, Taraka did. You can talk to Taraka about his time and association with Prabhupada. So you can, as time goes on, there are less and less disciples of Prabhupada who actually had spent time with him, whether it was a day or a month or a year or a few years, several years, on and off. You can read, it's important to read books uh, by disciples of Prabhupada who were his servants and secretaries. Like Harisari Prabhu has really nice books, and of course Shruti Kirti and Mother Jamuna, and many disciples, Satsvarup Maharaj, and there are many disciples of Prabhupada who spent time with him and should read their books. They were with him, and if you have a chance, you talk to them. Mother Malati, if she visits here, should try to talk to them and hear about Prabhupada from them. It won't be long because they won't, until none of Prabhupada's disciples will be available anymore. So take advantage while you can, especially, yeah. So, yeah, take advantage. Yeah, I heard that lecture that Prabhupada gave at Ohio State University. And generally these days when we do lectures at universities or something like that, we try to be very diplomatic, very careful how we don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to be too heavy or turn anybody off. But so sometimes the lectures aren't like very direct. But listen to Prabhupada's lecture at Ohio State. Of course, we're not Prabhupada. I'm not saying that we can imitate Prabhupada, but if you hear his lecture there and many other places, he was really direct and really strenuous in his presentation. He wasn't mincing any words or beating around the bush, or it was just directly exactly the same thing. If you didn't know better, you would think, if you didn't know where he was talking, you would think he was talking in a class at a temple to a lot of disciples who were used to hearing from him like that. So anyway, but you might not, you wouldn't really, you could pick up what he was talking about from reading the transcription of his lecture there. But if you hear how he spoke there, it's uh, it's more. And so I always not recommend, but emphasize as heavily as possible that disciples should hear directly from Prabhupada in his books and in his audio and video lectures. And so this verse is just about that, who constantly hears and chants the holy name of the Lord and hears and chants about his activities can very easily attain the platform of pure devotional service, which can cleanse the dirt from one's heart. One cannot achieve such purification merely by observing vows and performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. The whole process of Krishna consciousness is Cheto Darpana Marjanam. That's the first Sanskrit phrase that I ever learned the first time I came, and somehow it stuck with me hearing that the first time. Cheto Darpana Marjanam, it means cleansing the heart from all the dust that has accumulated for years. The chanting of Hare Krishna extinguishes the fire of repeated birth and death. So we have so much dust. The heart is covered by a thick layer of dirt from material contamination. But underneath it, we're still pure spirit soul. We never stopped being pure spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, no matter how covered we we've been through millions of births and deaths in the material world, in the body of a tree or an animal or a demigod or a human being like we are now, extremely covered by modes of material nature. But one example that's given uh, is the water, the rainwater, when the water is in the clouds in the sky, it's very pure. It's not dirty at all. But when it falls to the ground and falls on the dirt, then we say, oh, the water is dirty. But then when it's evaporated again up into the sky, then it's pure again. But the fact of the matter is that the water, the example is, the analogy is that to the spirit soul, the water was never dirty. It just appeared to be dirty. So because it was mixed with dirt. But so the soul, the pure spirit soul, the Atma, we're eternally pure, part and parcel of Krishna, and just covered. We never stopped being pure spirit soul. We only covered. And of course, the reason for our covering, our coming to the material world, desire to be independent of Krishna, to not want to serve Krishna anymore. It's not like we're responsible for our own coming. Each person is responsible for for our coming to the material world because of our desire to Krishna, to be independent of Krishna. So that's the cause of our coming. And once we come here, once we're placed here in the material world, then we're covered by the dirt and dust of the material world. But we never stop being pure spirit soul. And when, when we again, by the mercy of Krishna, Guru and Krishna, we meet the devotees of Krishna. We get one of Prabhupada's books. Somehow or other, there are many stories of devotees just finding one of Prabhupada's books somewhere on a subway train, or I know this one devotee in uh, Philadelphia. You might know him, Hari Ashva, and he was, as a young man, he was at a theme park or amusement park with some of his friends, and they went on the roller coaster. And just when you get to the top of the roller coaster, before you start down, you stop for a minute, and there was a ledge right beside at the top where you stop before you go down, and there was a Back to Godhead there. And he reached over and he took the Back to Godhead and he took it home and read it, and he became a devotee. Yeah, and so yeah, and so there are devotees uh, who are people all over the world who are becoming devotees with direct contact with disciples or grand disciples, or just somehow or other with one of Prabhupada's books, or just somehow or other. There are devotees all over the world. And there are many people who are just ready to become devotees. All they need is a little bit of contact, a little bit of touch with Krishna consciousness. What happened to me, I was at a, so anyway, what happened to me, I was at a, when I graduated high school, I went to a movie in Boston with a girlfriend, and we on a summer night, beautiful summer night. We came out of the movie, and we heard kartals and mridanga. And I said, "Hey, let's go see what that noise is." We walk across the street, and uh, Saturday night, everybody's out for fun in downtown Boston, and but there was about probably about 30 or 40 devotees there on the sidewalk doing a big kirtan. And everybody was young, everybody was shaved up, everyone, the women were all in saris, everybody was jumping up and down and running in circles. And and that's how I became a devotee. And that's because I didn't know what it was, but I knew immediately, somehow, by Krishna's grace, I knew somehow, like, immediately, that this is something that's not of this world. This is something from out of this world. And then I went up to college a couple months later and met the devotees up there. But so anyway, it doesn't, there are people all over the world who are just ready to become devotees, and all they need is just some kind of contact with Krishna's devotees. And Krishna's making all the arrangements. I hardly ever went into Boston, like hardly ever. But somehow or other, by Krishna's grace, I went in there and met the devotees. So, and everybody has some kind of story like that. All the devotees have a really nice story about their first contact with Krishna consciousness and how significant it was in their life and their beginnings in Krishna consciousness. I'm sure everyone here has a nice story like that too. Everyone's story is different, but everybody's story is something like that. Anyway, so you just hear, and Prabhupada says in the, so we can chant the holy name, and it can very easily attain the platform of pure devotional service. And sometimes we think, oh, I'm so unqualified, I'm so fallen, I have this fault and that fault. How am I ever going to become a pure devotee? How am I ever going to? But but we shouldn't think like that, because that's like, because there are so many statements by Prabhupada just like this. It can very easily attain the platform of pure devotional service. So if we think, if I think, well, yeah, it says that there, and not me. How could I ever become a pure devotee? That would be like denying the potency of the holy name of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Yeah, I guess it can work, but it can't work on me. I'm too fallen. I'm too covered. So how can I be too covered? I'm not very different from all the other fallen souls in the material world. We're all fallen. Does it mean that I'm so bad that even the holy name can't deliver me? Oh, all of us, we're all here. All the devotees are young devotees. We definitely have our faults. We definitely have our impurities. There's no doubt about that. But there's no, there's one. I should know the details of this, but I don't. I don't know who the disciple was. One disciple went to Prabhupada, and I think it was a lady, but I'm not sure. But whoever it was, they said to Prabhupada, they said, this part I'm sure about. Is that I'd like to surrender more. I'd like to surrender to you, but there are so many obstacles on in my way. And Prabhupada's reply to her for him was, I can kick out all those obstacles with one kick of my foot. So there's no impurity that we have, no obstacle in the path of devotional service that can't be very easily overcome by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Not that you don't have to do anything, you can just take it easy and just say, oh, well, it's okay, it's easy. Not like that. We're responsible for each in devotees. We're responsible for our own desire, our own intensity of our devotional practices. Each one of us is responsible for our own practice in devotional service. But so it's not easy in the sense that when you buy a Powerball ticket and then the next day you're a billionaire. Not like that, but easy in the sense that if we simply sincerely continue to surrender to Krishna and chant Hare Krishna, as Prabhupada puts it here in the purport, he says, even if one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offensively, one can avoid offenses by continuously chanting without deviation. There's so many things in Prabhupada's books that are like, seem to be saying this, but then he said that. He said, even if one chants the Hare Krishna mantra offensively, one can avoid offenses by continuously chanting without deviation. For one who becomes accustomed to this practice will always remain in a pure transcendental position, untouchable by sinful reactions. Just like all the devotees at Gitanagari every day, you're taking care of the cows, you're bottling the milk, you're worshiping the deities, you're cooking for Krishna every day. Every day. You're chanting your japa, you're coming to the morning program, without, so it's, so uh, one can avoid offenses by continuously chanting without deviation. That's what's Prabhupada's whole program. Just give the uh, give the neophyte devotees who are coming out of a really bad situation in the material world these days. A lot of the devotees are coming out of a nice birth in India where they may be pure in their behavior, habits are relatively pure. But definitely in the beginning, the devotees weren't coming out. And uh, I know I wasn't coming out, and probably none of us here, I don't know. we weren't so pure growing up, and but look at us now. We're doing all right. We're continuously chanting and serving Guru and Krishna without deviation. Doesn't mean that our minds don't wander. Yeah, our minds wander. We have material desires, but those can all be overcome, and those all will be overcome and minimized, and eventually done away with in due course of time by by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, by the continual process of Krishna consciousness. It's a cleansing, like you cleanse a very dirty thing. It takes some time, but it'll get cleaner and cleaner as you go along. It's a process of cleansing, so it doesn't become immediately clean as soon as you touch it with a wet rag with soap on it. It takes some time, especially if it's very, very dirty. But it will be clean. It will become clean. I know when I was a, a new devotee, after a couple of years, Tarika would remember, I was pretty, I was pretty full of myself. I was thinking, I'm a pretty good devotee. And uh, I'm pretty pure. Uh, I wasn't. I was offensive in many ways to a lot of devotees, and I was always pretty obedient to authorities. But I made a lot of offenses also to a lot of devotees, and I suffered a lot. I really struggled for like the first 8 or 10 years because but anyway, but um, I remember one time I was walking up the stairs after the morning program behind the temple president Naranjana, now Naranjana Swami, and uh, no, he was the regional. He wasn't the temple president then, but he was walking up beside the temple president, Grani. They were a few steps ahead of me. They didn't know I was behind them. They were talking about me, and one of them said to the other, he said, "Yeah, Muktavandia, yeah, he's doing okay, but his mind is very disturbed." And I was kind of taken aback. I was like, I didn't think my mind was disturbed. I thought I was, pretty together. But of course, looking back now from quite a number of years later, I can see that, yeah, my mind was very disturbed. Of course, it's not so disturbed now. But looking back, I can see that I can realize I know what they were talking about now. And but it didn't, whatever offenses I was making in japa and relationships with devotees and everything, it didn't stop me from washing the pots, didn't stop me from going out on Harinam. I knew I had to do my duties very faithfully and pretty determined about that. And I know from my own experience that the process of Krishna consciousness is extremely effective. And there's one last point, just one more point. Yeah, it is a statement about rituals, and one cannot achieve such purification merely by observing vows and performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. So we have our ceremonies. we have our fire yajnas and our ceremonies. We're not unceremonial. We're not unritualistic, but the essential thing, like in the opening of the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, it was a 3 day festival. I've just read about it. I wasn't there, but it was a 3 day festival, and the kirtan was going on constant in the temple. Many, many devotees were there from around the world. Prabhupada was there. He was very happy that Krishna Balaram temple was opening after a long struggle. And Prabhupada told his disciples they hired some of the local Brahmins to do like fire yagas and the rituals outside, I think in front of the temple for the 3 days. And so afterwards, Prabhupada told his disciples, he said, yeah, the real thing and the main thing in establishing the deities in the temple was the kirtan. The kirtan is always the basis of everything we do. It is the Sankirtan movement, and whatever rituals and performances, sacrifices or vows that we take, or anything that we do, the essence, the basis of everything is always Harinam Sankirtan. So Prabhupada, yeah, he told them that he wanted the ritualistic, the Brahmins, the local Brahmins, to do their sacrifices and everything, mainly for the satisfaction of the local residents who would see it and appreciate it. Yeah, this is good. This is good. This is up to the standard. And but just ritual in and of themselves, or taking vows, or the whole idea is just of everything we do in Krishna consciousness is just to please Krishna, just to please Guru and Krishna. And the way we know, the way we please Krishna, Guru and Krishna, is to do what they tell us. Like Prabhupada always gave the example of if the spiritual master asks you for a cup of water, and you go and you think, well, I think a cup of milk would be better than a cup of water. I'll get him a cup of milk. But that's what he asked for. He asked for a cup of water. So, yeah, so the essence of everything is just to please Guru and Krishna. And the way we know what will please them is because they tell us what will please them. It's not a mystery. It's not vague. It's not japa every day. Follow the four regulative principles. Have some regular service in the temple or outside of the temple for the propagation of the Sankirtan movement, and whatever vows and rituals you want to perform that will can accompany those basic things, or uh, 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 help you in doing those things, do them. But the main thing is follow the very clear, uh, unequivocal instructions. And yeah, so the ritual, it's okay, it's good if it's done under the authority of the spiritual master, but on its own, there's no particular value. It can very easily be, people can be very easily deviated into thinking, yeah, I'm a very pure Brahmana. look how I do these rituals with such style and such nice chanting of mantras, and people come and they touch my feet and they give me money, and well, you can get a little weird. You have to be a little careful. It might be a very uh, anyway. The point is, the ritual in and of itself has no value. It is not. Uh, One cannot achieve such purification merely by observing vows and performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, but we achieve everything by chanting. Okay, well, I don't know how soon the curtains open. Probably the doors open. In Boston, we have curtains. And is there any time? I know I talked a lot. Is there any time for anyone else to say anything? Yeah.
Thank you for for insights. So you began the class by speaking about basically the tendency in this world is to forget, and the desire of high authorities, particularly acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, through their desire, the Lord's glories become manifest in the material world, or in other words, in the place where there's a tendency of forgetfulness.
Yeah.
And then you spoke about how the spirit soul is always pure in the material world,
Yeah.
even though they come in contact with material. So my question relates to maintaining our desire, because it seems like that is the potency for not becoming covered over. So in other words,
Yeah.
how can you maintain a material desire so that just as a drop of water gets becomes pure again through evaporation?
Yeah.
So does the churning of Krishna Kata like prevent the spirit soul's desire from being contaminated by lust, greed, anger, envy, madness, illusion? Is that the actual cause? Or just like the
Yeah.
continuous churning of
Yeah.
chanting and hearing about the activities of the Lord?
Yeah, of course. That's the everything. Hearing and chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Hearing and chanting are always the first two things that are emphasized. And as far as maintaining desire is concerned, I know that I mean, the whole material world, samsara, dava, nala, lita, loka, the whole material world is compared to a forest fire. So if you, of course, I don't see fire everywhere around here, but I know, I mean, we look around us in the material world, we see blazing fire of war and pestilence and famine craziness everywhere around us. It's not hard to see that the material world is a blazing fire, and it's like if you were in a forest fire, well, obviously you have to run out of there and as quick as you can, and if you have to say you have to run like half a mile before you're out of the fire, and you run a quarter of a mile, I don't think your desire to run out of the fire would diminish. You'd still, after a quarter of a mile, you'd be like, well, I still got a quarter of a mile to go before I get out of this fire. Better keep running. So we've made significant progress. We've come a long way out of what we were previously before Krishna consciousness, but it's pretty obvious that we're not out of the fire yet. We're still here. We're still surrounded by the material energy. So it's, you know, maintain your desire. We're not. We got a ways to go. and we're still in danger. Mm, Yeah, yeah. Keep it. It's just see with your the devotee is Shastra Chakshu. We don't see. We see with our eyes too. We see with our eyes all around us and our material intelligence, the insane state of the material world everywhere around us. We know it. We're not stupid. But the basis of our seeing is through the Shastra. And the Shastra emphasizes time and time and time again the miserable nature of the material world. So we should be we should be easily able to maintain a strong desire to become pure and go back to God. And that's the negative side. The positive side is, yeah, I want to go back to Godhead. I want to be happy eternally. Sounds really good. I want to see Krishna again. I want to play in Vrindavan again. There's the negative side of wanting to avoid the obvious pain and danger of the material world, and there's also the very clear side of, yeah, I want to. I it sounds I want to go back to Godhead. It shouldn't be hard to maintain our desire, a strong desire. And the means of maintaining a strong desire are Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And okay, let's stop there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
His basement, the one